The other one that we're talking about today is number 1 Georgia going against Florida in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, 3:30 p.m. on CBS. And Dalton, the big story, obviously, is Georgia going into their most difficult stretch of the season without its superstar tight end in Brock Bowers. He's missing 4 to 6 weeks with surgery on his injured ankle. Right now, it's probably about 3 to 5 weeks now after the bye week. It really could not have come at a worse stretch for the Bulldogs. They have the next 4 games. They play 4 top 30 teams in PFF's power rankings. Florida, number 16 Missouri in the AP poll, number 12 Ole Miss, and number 21 Tennessee. You see right there, those are the rankings in PFF's power rankings. It's going to be a tough stretch for Georgia. And now, without their star tight end, who could be missing all 4 of those games, now is time for Georgia, the defending back-to-back champs, to show, hey, we are the number 1 team in the country. Even without our star player, we can get through this stretch. But that's the big storyline, Dalton, is honestly, can they get through this stretch without their superstar?
Absolutely, and I was going the same place. It's going to be a challenge now, right? You've got a team whose wide receivers who are 68th in the country in receiving grade.
Yep.
So they need to step up, and this is not about Carson Beck either. Look, you want the list of guys with better passing grades on at least 150 dropbacks than Carson Beck? Here we go. Shedeur Sanders, Michael Penix, Tyler Van Dyke, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy. That's it. That's the list of guys with 150 dropbacks with a better passing grade than Carson Beck. It's not him. They need other guys to step up. All right. I mean, we saw it a little bit when they played Kentucky. They were getting down the field. Look, Carson Beck, he makes really good decisions. He makes efficient decisions. He's got the 3rd fastest time to throw in the Power 5. He gets rid of the football. There is a clear groove here with the quick game, play action, getting rid of the football, get it out of his hands. He doesn't move too much. Georgia's, it's part of the reason their numbers in pass protection are so good is because Beck gets rid of the ball. They've got several NFL offensive linemen out there, but they need these receivers in these next 4 weeks to step up without Bowers. McConkey is obviously the best of the bunch. They need to separate consistently, and especially, Georgia's one. It's kind of these 2 teams. I think offensively they operate kind of similar. You got 2 teams that do want to run the ball, that want to get to play action, that don't want to get in drop back game. And to be honest with you, Graham Mertz on the whole, you look at the numbers, are probably better than I thought they would be. But it's a weird one. This is a challenge for him too, where it's going to be you're playing one of the best secondaries in the country. Malachi Starks and a big time secondary. He's got 2 games with a 90+ grade, but not another one at least the 73. So which Graham Mertz are we getting?
Yep.
And what can Carson Beck do? Because I think it's not just about their ability now with Georgia at receiver. It's about, well, now that you don't have to, we've talked about before, having to bracket and double Bowers and focus the entire game plan on him. Well, now these guys are in much less favorable matchups with a lot less space, right? You might see Florida come out and try to play man-to-man with them. You're not going to man-to-man on Bowers. You're not going to do that. But it's going to be – now, the good thing for Georgia, if you were going to start with a little bit of a soft landing, Florida, they don't do anything across their whole team spectacular, but I would say the biggest part where they struggle is in coverage.
Yeah.
All right. Overall, 70th in coverage grade. But if I take out the 2 non-Power 5 games against McNeese State and Charlotte, and Charlotte's just, that's not good, and they still only beat them 22-7. Their coverage grade against Power 5 teams drops to 109th. There's too many busts on the back end with this Florida team, and Carson Beck, especially against Kentucky, showed if you mess something up on the back end, he's going to find it.
Yep,
he's going to find it. I think he's a guy who certainly not in the Heisman race, especially with the traditional numbers, but a guy who's I don't think we've talked about enough. I think Carson. Let's say we've talked about Kyle McCord a lot. Carson Beck is what we're waiting for Kyle McCord to be.
Absolutely.
Right? He's really been just so darn consistent that he's almost boring. And he's not the problem here.
Nope.
Like with Georgia, if they're winning games, especially the last 2 or 3, because of Carson Beck, they've taken another step offensively. If he can get them through this stretch, especially these next 3, well, really all 4. Tennessee's defense is really good. I don't know if they'll have Bowers by then either. All 4 of these teams, we start talking about Carson Beck like, whoa, okay, now the three-peat's on, because we were worried about quarterback probably more than anything, and very, very quietly he's been big time. But they need these receivers to step up. These are some, maybe not this week, but these are some good defenses. We've talked about Chris Abrams-Strain against with Missouri, Kamal Hadden in Tennessee's secondary, right? They're going to have to put up a lot of points on Ole Miss. They need these receivers to step up, and Bowers being out is absolutely the biggest story of their season.
It absolutely is, man, because not only is he one of the greatest tight ends college football has ever seen, he's also really, like you said, the only one who's kind of holding up what's been an otherwise average receiving core for Georgia. Bowers has 237 more receiving yards than Georgia's next closest receiver. That is outrageous for any wide receiver, let alone a tight end, to be leading the team by that much. And you mentioned it too. I mean, they have the 19th best receiving grade in the country, including Bowers. When you take him out of there, you look at just the receivers, 65th in the country, man. So big problem. And I agree with you, man. Carson Beck is honestly, I think he deserves more love in the Heisman conversation, more like probably top 10, top 15 candidate kind of love, because he has really impressed me. But now you take away the ultimate security blanket in Brock Bowers, who becomes his new top target now against these defenses, against these really good teams that he's playing against. Ladd McConkey missed the first few games with an injury. He's back now, but they've kind of slowly been incorporating him into the offense. Marcus Rosemy-Jackson has kind of been their top receiver all season long. But again, like, these are guys that only have a couple hundred receiving yards this year. It's not like any of them are really doing that well. I think it'll be a lot more of him spreading the ball around. I don't think it'll be just him targeting one receiver, but it's going to be interesting, man. Hopefully Ladd McConkey, who I liked a lot before the season, hopefully he gets fully healthy now, because they're really going to need him now in this stretch. But ultimately, Dalton, who are you going on? Who are you picking in this game in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party?
I still like the Bulldogs. This is a case where I just have to pick the better team. Florida doesn't do anything spectacular. There's not a single thing they do on an elite level. They got 2 good backs. Graham Mertz is playing pretty good, but not elite. I don't think, you take out he was good against Charlotte, and I believe he was good against Tennessee, if I remember that right. Other than that, he's kind of same old Graham Mertz. Florida, I just don't know that there's enough juice here unless the Georgia passing game really struggles. Now, I think Kirby Smart is going to tell his offensive line in that run game, listen, it's on you guys now too, because we can't drop back and throw the ball like we did before. I think there's some matchup issues for Florida. Look, Pearsall's really good, but they don't have another consistent performer at receiver. We've talked before about how good Georgia is at holding running backs down in the run game. If you're going to run on Georgia, you need some sort of dynamic element from the quarterback. Florida doesn't have that. Graham Mertz is not that guy, right? He does not bring any running threat. So you're talking about a traditional run game, a traditional pocket quarterback, and a defense that still, I would call Florida's defense just decent. I mean, Uman Mielen can rush the passer, but Georgia gets rid of the football and their pass protection is really good, so it's kind of neutralized a bit. Other than just kind of like rivalry mojo, turnover, something other than maybe Georgia's receivers struggling a bit, but this is not the best secondary in the country by any means.
No.
I'm not sure what the clear path here is for Florida to win this game. I think it could certainly be competitive, because these two teams most years are competitive. There's some weird stuff that happens in this one, but I'll take Georgia. I'm still going to take them 34-20. This just feels like one where they're just better. They're just better kind of across the board. They do everything Florida does, but better.
I agree, man. I'm taking Georgia in this one, 31-17. You mentioned the run game for Florida and how we always, in all of our previews we've done with Florida, we've always mentioned run the ball more. And it was the reason why they beat Tennessee in that game. But you look at Florida, they are running the ball at basically 45% of the time, which is 108th in the country, man. This is not a team that's relying on the run game, even though you would think this offense, the bread and butter, should be Trevor Etienne and should be Montreal Johnson. They're relying on Graham Mertz, and he's been solid. Don't get me wrong, a lot more solid than I thought he would have been. But I've kind of been surprised by how little Florida has run the ball this season. I agree with you. They're not going to be able to do it this week. Georgia has done a really good job. But you saw that Kentucky game, how lopsided that got. It really was because Ray Davis wasn't able to carry Kentucky like he needs to. Devin Leary is kind of, I think, maybe a little bit worse than Graham Mertz right now, but he's kind of on that level where it's like you need your quarterback to step up in this game. I don't think Florida's going to have that. Even without Brock Bowers, I think Georgia's going to win this game pretty convincingly. Might be a little close in the first half. I think they'll pull away in the second half. Georgia 31-17 is my final score.